Hey garden friends, it's a sunny, beautiful day out here. It's supposed to get nearly 70 degrees and I'm just eating it up. Next week we're going to get several days of rain, but that's okay. It's spring. It's spring. Today I wanted to talk to you about the sun. Friends, let's talk sun tracking. It's something that many newbie gardeners know very little to nothing about, and it's a very important aspect to setting up your garden. And I know when I first started gardening 40 years ago, I was standing in my garden one summer day. My tomatoes on one side of the garden were just flourishing and producing beautifully, and on the other, they were not. They were not producing. They were in my garden, and what I realized back then was I had a big butterfly bush that had grown 8 feet tall. Well, it seemed 8 feet, probably 6 feet tall. This was an area that they grew very fast and flourished very well. It was a zone 9B now, and yeah, you could cut these things back down hard and they would come right back up. Anyways, they were shading because of the position of where it was at in relation to the tomatoes. It was casting shade on those tomato plants. So they were not getting the full sun that they needed to produce well. And that's where sun tracking comes in. It's knowing where the sun falls in your garden space during the season, not just high summer. And how do you do that? Well, we'll get to that in a minute, how you do that. But the importance, what is the importance? My story, my little story, or my little experience, they are kind of related, some of it. I not only had the tomatoes not flourish, but I had shade or partial shade plants planted in areas that got too much sun. And so they were wilting, scalding, etc., and not able to perform the best that they could. And it was all my mistake. The importance of the proper amount of sun is, of course, things need to, the sun creates photosynthesis and how well the plants do. And as we know, most of you know, some plants do better in shade, part sun, or full sun. So how do you track the sun in your garden? Now, one way is to use the shadow method. That's where you come out incrementally through a day, or you could do it over a week. Come out 7 to 9 a.m., take a picture of your garden area and where the shadows are falling, and make a note in a notebook, or you can do it on your phone. Keep a track and the pictures, and that'll show you during the day, throughout the day, during that season, this is early spring, where the sun falls at what time of day. And that can come in super handy. Let me see this. The sun is right there, and it's going to go behind this tree in a minute. But now that the trees over here, we had several trees, are gone, most of them, I'm going to get a whole lot more sun here in the Rose Cottage garden, which is a very good thing. So now I'm not exactly sure anymore what time of day, even in high summer, the sun will hit here. So I'm going to track it this year. Now there's also an app that you can get on your phone, and it's called Sunseeker, I think. I'll put the name across the screen if that isn't it. And it's supposed to help you to track the sun even more, I don't know, efficiently or more detailed. But I haven't used it yet, so I don't know. So you might want to try that. So yes, it does take time, but if you are able to be home during the day and you can go out, just set a timer every hour, go out and take a picture of stand in the same spot of your garden area to see where the sun hits. Now you can do this once a month, once every couple of months, like when it's getting closer to the summer solstice, then I will also do then, because I want to know exactly where the sun hits, being the sun's higher in the sky during that time. You know, I know there's much less shade, but then as it starts sinking again towards fall, in the sky is where it hits, then it's going to cast more shadows again. And that is how you use your phone and or a notebook. And You could also make a chart of your, like draw, just a simple drawing of your garden and kind of shade in with a pencil where the shadows are hitting, if that's the way you wanted to do it, rather than photographs. Now, after you've done that bit of sun mapping, whether it's a drawing, a sketch of your garden, or with photos on your camera, if you bring home a plant in midsummer when the sun is higher in the sky and you decide to put it in the garden, say it's a perennial, you have to be mindful of how tall it's going to get and if it's going to cast shadows, maybe in a month, on the other plants surrounding it that may need longer daylight hours. Now, also knowing where the sun is going to be in your garden at any set time of day will help you to pick plants for that area. Over here beside Primrose Cottage, which I'll turn around, it's full of snow right now, excuse me, you will notice it gets shade cast on it from my little cottage. It is that way almost all summer long in a portion of it. Now there's another portion that during high summer will get more sun, and the sun's pretty intense during that time of year, but then it goes back into shade. So you need to pick plants that can take that high intense sun during that time of year, but the rest of the time can take shade. So there's all kinds of things you need to consider, and don't be afraid to trial and error, because sometimes a plant that's supposed to take full sun, like roses, I have roses in my front entrance garden in front of my porch. That only gets 4 hours of sun, even during high summer, and probably less during this time of year. And as I said, I have roses there. They're not like tea roses. These are like a garden rose, and it's called Tequila Supreme. I always want to say Tequila Sunrise, but I guess that's because of the coloration of it. But those shouldn't do well there. I just put them there because that's what I wanted there, and I thought I would go for it and see if it would go ahead and bloom beautifully in that limited sunlight. Last year they did fine, but who knows as we continue on if they will continue to do well there. They were a very prolific bloomer. They might have bloomed even better if they'd been in more sun, but they did well there for the time being. Now I'll keep my eye on them. So you can test things out. There are roses that are said to bloom in part shade, but usually they don't bloom as well as if they get that full sun. I have a Zephyrin drone climber right over here, and at one time it was planted in a shadier spot and it just didn't bloom well at all. And it just was a disappointment. So that's why I moved it here, and once I moved it into the full sun, it did much better. As far as how much bloom it gave, it always grew, always had greenery, always seemed to be doing well that way, but the bloom, I just didn't get what I wanted from it. And also you have to note that some things that like full sun, if the base is planted in shade, but the top is in sun, it still will do okay. And it will work for you. But getting it to the spot where it is getting the sun can take a little bit longer. And if you had to cut it way back in the winter for whatever reason, or early spring, you'd have to wait much later to get blooms because it'd have to get up to the sun to do that. So you'd want to use sun tracking to plan your garden, as always bringing out shade plants in the shady areas, sun-loving plants in the full sun area, and then the partial shade. Now, partial shade is usually, 3 to 6 hours of sun. Now, I kind of hesitate with that because in high intense heat areas, it depends on when it gets the sun. It's not just getting 3 hours of sun, 3 to 6 hours. It's when it gets that sun. Now, those areas, many areas, partial sun or partial shade plants do better with morning sun, when the sun really hasn't gotten as hot as it usually does. As late afternoon sun, so maybe the 3 hours was like from, 4 to 7. The sun can be really intense in some areas during that time frame, and that could scorch even the plants that are supposed to take part sun. So you really have to plan out for your regional climate too. And usually asking in local nursery, a well, would say employed nursery that have people there that know plants. Many big box stores don't employ people that know plants. Some do. Some do. I have to admit that because we have 2 within an hour's drive of us, 2 Lowe's to be specific. And one of them, they seem to make a point of hiring people that know plants and love plants in the garden department. And then I have another on the other direction. They don't. And what a huge difference in being able to pick someone's brain or get some information from them. So, it doesn't hurt to ask. Some people will say they don't know. And some people will actually have some knowledge of what would do well in your specific area. It is not defined by zones, because a zone can have varying climate. A zone only tells you the lowest winter temperatures that are average in your area, not how long you have those temperatures, not how hot it gets in your area, or any of that. So I'll give you an example of regional. When I lived down in the valley, I was in a zone 9. Very hot summers. Was a beautiful area to grow tomatoes, peppers, etc. Had a long summer growing season. Then there's Mendocino, California, that is on the coast. Their summers are very cool, and there's a lot of times they have fog, and they have to grow tomatoes in a greenhouse to get the heat they need to get produce. But they're both zone 9s. So you can tell how the climate is what determines what will grow well and not the zone. So that needed to be said. And many times, like when I went to Victoria to see Bouchard Gardens, there were plants growing in containers in full sun that they wouldn't even live here in my garden in full sun. And that is because they have a much milder summer climate than I have. We get higher temperatures here. So those things are things you need to be aware of too. So that's one of the beauties of maybe growing in pots, is you can move them. If you see a container plant not thriving and you think maybe it's too hot for it, or maybe it's getting too much shade, you can move it somewhere. And that's a good way maybe to get started in a garden. If you're not familiar with your sun mapping yet, it's your first season and you just want to throw plants out there, you're just getting started, maybe it's already summer. So you could grow in containers and then move those to where they would prefer it if you find one that's not doing well. Now, there's also caveats that you can do, or ways you can mitigate heat and too much sun. Do you hear the frog? Hope you can. I have a friend. She lives 20 minutes down the road, but their summers are much more extreme, longer than mine. And she loves hydrangeas, regular hydrangea, big leaf hydrangeas. She has them planted in full sun. And what she does is she puts huge beach umbrellas up over them to shade them during the intense part of the year, the intense sun part of the year. It works beautifully. She's gotten, they're like, I call them like parasols. They're very pretty white umbrellas that have like a tassel edging around it. Look very Victorian to me. And they're beautiful in her garden, and she gets to enjoy her big leaf hydrangeas, the big, gorgeous blue and pink blooms. And she also has them in containers, and they do great. Even though she doesn't have a shady spot to grow them, she grows them with that help of the umbrellas. So you can always put up a shade cloth or something like that if you need to grow something or want to grow something that prefers shade in a sunnier area. So those are things that you can help with it. But basically, yeah, map out your garden and avoid the problem I had when I started my first garden of my own, and having plants in the wrong place because of not knowing where the sun hit in my garden through the season. And that, my friends, is the tip of the day. Yes, I'm going to share with you next the plants and flowers I have planted in March, seeded, and then I'm going to share with you what I'm going to start. April's going to be here in a week. What seeds I'm going to start for April. I'm probably going to do a bunch of annuals. So come on back for that and we'll enjoy it. And I just did a video on perennial a perennial container garden. So I'll link that right here somewhere.